This video, we're going to do some guided exam question practice on a question that came up on Earth's climate in 2019. Okay, so here it is. It was question 8. It was a 15-mark question, which means you got about 5 minutes to do it. Okay, so approximately five minutes. And it was opened up with a picture of a polar bear on a floating sheet of ice, an iceberg essentially, and lots of water surrounding it. Something that I suppose looks like not good news for the polar bear. Okay, now is that important or not? Probably not, to be honest. There might be a question about the polar bear later on, but what we're talking about here, it says global warming can cause melting of ice sheets and glaciers, which is partly responsible for rising sea levels. Okay, so that's important. Global warming is melting ice sheets, and this is part of the reason why sea levels are rising. Okay, so very quickly, in part A, what does it actually ask us to do? Name a human activity. So this is something that humans do, which has led to global warming, which has caused global warming. So we know that the gas that causes global warming, or one of them, or the greenhouse gas, is called CO2. So we're basically naming a human activity which causes extra CO2. Okay, so literally think of anything that would do that and would cause global warming. So we're naming human activity. So pause the video and do that now. Okay, so some of the things that we have studied is we have talked about burning fuels, in particular, burning fossil fuels. Burning fossil fuels will release CO2. Now, one thing that you might have said here is respiration. Okay, respiration. We don't really want to use that one. That's not really a human activity. This is just a life process. So living things have to do respiration. There's not really anything we can do about that. So we don't want to use that one. We want to use one that's like, okay, well, this is an activity. This is extra things that we do. We don't have to burn fossil fuels. We can do something else instead. So this is what we mean by human activity. What other things could cause CO2 to go up and contribute to global warming? Okay, now, one thing we don't want to do, guys, is we don't want to write something really vague like pollution. Okay, we don't just want to say pollution. Name a human activity that causes global warming. Oh, that's pollution. No, we have to be specific. So pollution is not going to be okay here. We need specific things which has led to an increase in CO2 and therefore global warming. There is another one in relation to trees. What else could we do that's going to make there be more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? So write that down now if you didn't get that. Okay, so hopefully it's burning fossil fuels or deforestation, cutting trees down. Okay, so if we remove forest, then there is less trees to take in carbon dioxide, and therefore carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the levels go up, and therefore that's bad news, isn't it? Okay, that's going to cause global warming. Right, so next thing, state a consequence, and consequence is a bad result. So state a bad result of rising sea levels on coastal areas. So what would be a consequence of this on coastal regions? So consequence. Okay, so there's lots of things you can say here. A lot of this is commonly sense. So pause the video and write down something which is a possible consequence here. All right, so there's loads of things you could have said. The most obvious one is that these areas would flood or they'd be underwater. So flooding is the most obvious one, and hopefully lots of you said that one. There might also be flooding, extra erosion, which means that I suppose the land in the coastal regions will get eroded and will disappear, essentially. Lots of cliffs and rocks and maybe even footpaths and stuff in a beach, seaside town or something. A lot of erosion. We might get a loss of habitat. So loss of habitat, so beach habitat, any coastal areas, loss of habitats is obviously going to be an issue because some land organisms, their home will now be covered in water. So, will be covered in water. So any consequence that makes sense, it's fine there. Okay, so what's the next question? Ice sheets are the natural habitat of polar bears, of animals such as polar bears. So the natural habitat. State one adaptation of polar bears that makes them suited to this habitat. So we did absolutely loads on adaptations and how it makes them suited to their habitat. So talk about that polar bear and what makes them suited to that particular habitat that they live in. So pause the video and we're going to write down adaptation. One adaptation is all we're looking for. So again, you're either writing into your exam papers or you're keeping a nice tab like this in your copy. So pause the video, do this now. All right, so you literally just need any valid adaptation. There's loads of things we could say about the polar bear. It's got white fur, okay, which helps it blend in with the ice. So it's white fur. It blends in with the ice, which means its prey can't see it coming. So white fur. Some of you will know that the polar bear has actually got black skin underneath, and black is good at insulating heat. So it's the color that loses heat the most. We'll say black skin. We might say it's got a layer of fat under its skin, which keeps it warm. It's got sharp teeth. It's got claws, so sharp claws or teeth, or it's a predator, so it can hunt. It's also got very wide paws. It's got these massive paws, and this helps it to distribute its weight a bit better on top of the ice, so it doesn't sink in the snow. Unlike a horse with a very pointed foot that's for running quickly, this is designed to sit on top of the snow. So it's got wide paws, but literally you just needed one of these. So any one of these are getting the marks. This is very easy. Wide paws. Would you expect the population of polar bears to increase or decrease as the ice sheets melt? Increase or decrease? So what would you say there? Pause the video and write down your answer. Again, very easy, common sense. I would expect them to decrease because their habitat is disappearing. So there's less habitat for them. So more of them are going to die and their numbers would decrease, their population. Population is the number of them. Last one. When solid changes state, so change of state, solid ice changes state to become liquid water, this is called melting. What name is given to the change of state when liquid water becomes solid ice? The opposite of melting. Pause the video, write down your answer. All right, so I'm not going to draw out the diagram where we learned this, so you guys will know that. How do we go from the 4 changes of state? We did this in great detail. We know that this here is called freezing. So well done if you got that right. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you the marking scheme for this. This is the marking scheme that the examiner would use to check your answers and see if they're right. So drag it over the side just so you can see and be absolutely confident and sure that you're getting the marks. Look, I'm going to go ahead and get you to pause the video and just check to make sure that we haven't missed out on, and to know that you're happy that you would have got all 15 marks there. Very easy question. So you can pause the video and check down through that yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.